Did you know Total Recall spent more than 10 years stuck in development jail before Arnold Schwarzenegger finally stepped in to save it? Believe it or not, one of the most unforgettable sci-fi movies of the 90s almost never happened. When the movie hit theaters in 1990, it was not just another action film. It pushed the limits of visual effects, blended psychological storytelling with blockbuster spectacle, and gave audiences a version of the future that felt gritty, strange, and completely unforgettable. But behind the scenes, the making of Total Recall was anything but smooth. Production collapsed, creative battles reshaped the story, actors dealt with injuries, Schwarzenegger even injured his hand multiple times during filming. At one point, the movie nearly disappeared forever. So today we are revealing 20 secrets from Total Recall that many fans still do not know. Let's start where every complicated movie journey begins: development. Number 1, the movie took over a decade to reach the screen. Before Arnold even stepped onto Mars, Total Recall was stuck in development for over a decade. The concept was ambitious, expensive, and difficult to adapt. Studios loved the idea but struggled to make it practical. Producer Arnold Schwarzenegger brought the rights to Philip K. Dick's short story, We Can Remember It For You Wholesale, in 1974. But between different studios, directors, and over 40 script drafts, 16 years passed. At one point, the movie felt almost impossible to produce. The technology needed to tell the story properly did not even exist yet. But in 1987, it was finally time to go into production. Or was it? Number 2, a production was started, then completely scrapped. The film nearly went into production in Australia in 1987 under De Laurentiis Entertainment Group. Bruce Bresford had been hired to direct, and Patrick Swayze was cast in the main role as Quaid. Sets were being built in Australia and everything. Then, De Laurentiis Entertainment Group filed for bankruptcy in 1988. The crew was fired, the sets were destroyed, and Total Recall went into turnaround, meaning any studio could step in and buy it. But why would anyone want a movie that seemed jinxed? Well, Total Recall is, if not persistent, because powerful producers kept trying to make it happen. Number 3, Schwarzenegger personally rescued the project. Arnold Schwarzenegger believed in the story from the very beginning, but De Laurentiis didn't want him in it. Now that he was out of the picture, Operation Schwarzenegger Takeover was back on. First, he convinced Carolco Pictures to buy the rights to the film so he could star in it. But he didn't just star in it, he was more involved than most actors ever were in movies. In fact, he chose the director. Number 4, Schwarzenegger handpicked the director. Arnold Schwarzenegger chose Paul Verhoeven to direct the film after being impressed by RoboCop. Verhoeven got the job and brought in his aces. He hired Gary Goldman to do yet another rewrite of the script. Verhoeven had wanted Michael Ironside to play Clarence Boddicker, the villain in RoboCop, but Ironside did not want to play another psychopath. But he agreed to play the antagonist Ritter in Total Recall. Ironside called Ritter a sociopath. Apparently, that was enough of a distinction for him to take the role. But before Verhoeven and his choices, there was Cronenberg. Number 5, the director quit and the movie almost died. David Cronenberg actually worked on the film during the first development wave. His vision leaned more towards psychological horror than action spectacle, but he was more than ready to bring it to life. Studios were concerned about the third act, so Cronenberg wrote all 12 drafts by himself. But producer Shusett didn't like Cronenberg's direction. He wanted Total Recall to be slightly unserious, like Raiders of the Lost Ark. The two wouldn't stop arguing, so Cronenberg quit and refused to come back even when De Laurentiis asked. In case you were wondering exactly what the story was that kept getting passed around, number 6, the story that started it all. The film is based on a short story by Philip K. Dick titled We Can Remember It For You Wholesale. The story follows an ordinary man who is tired of his boring life and decides to buy artificial memories of a trip to Mars. The company promises him the adventure of a lifetime without ever leaving Earth. But the moment they try to implant the memory, everything falls apart. They discover he already has memories of going to Mars. His mind has been wiped to hide the fact that he used to be a secret agent. Pretty wild, right? But it couldn't be adapted as is. Studios struggled with the material because most of the tension happens inside the character's head, and making this vision real requires serious bank. Number 7, one of the most expensive movies ever made at the time. At the time of production, Total Recall had one of the highest budgets in Hollywood history. It was supposed to be made for a budget of $30 million, but between the special effects and other unforeseen issues, Total Recall was finally made for anywhere between $48 and $80 million. Schwarzenegger allegedly dropped $50 million. Studios rarely spent that much on science fiction films back then. The scale of the investment showed how much confidence the studio had in the movie's potential. Most of the budget went into groundbreaking visuals. Number 8. The film bridged the gap between practical effects and CGI. Total Recall was created during a time when Hollywood was transitioning from practical effects to digital technology. In fact, it was one of the first films to experiment with CGI, at least a semblance of it. The film used a combination of prosthetics, miniatures, animatronics, and early CGI techniques. It was one of the largest miniature sets ever built, about 25 feet tall. The 3D skeletons were actually made from motion capture. How cool! But one of the most unforgettable effects involved a very unusual character. Number 9. Kuato required an army of puppeteers. Kuato remains one of the strangest and most memorable characters in sci-fi history. He was a highly complex animatronic puppet designed by Rob Bottin. Did you know that the mutant leader was a full puppet built into the chest of actor Marshall Bell? And it took 15 to 20 puppeteers just to get the baby mutant to breathe and move his face and arms. But don't you forget that a man is defined by his actions, not his memory.
A man is defined by his action, not his memory.
Now, do you remember the cool cars? Number 10. The futuristic vehicles were just Mexican public transports. Some of the futuristic transportation scenes were filmed using real locations in Mexico City. Instead of building everything from scratch, the filmmakers modified existing public transport systems. Minor touch-ups like sleek silver paint and television screens were applied to boost the ultra-modern feel. Just like that, ordinary Mexico City became part of a futuristic Mars colony. But filming in real locations brought unexpected challenges. Really unexpected. Number 11. The set was a health hazard. Most of the cast and crew members became sick during production. They got severe food poisoning from contained food and water. It was messy. Paul Verhoeven was also sick. He had to have an ambulance on standby to transport crew members when they couldn't go on working. To top it off, they also dealt with intense air pollution. Schwarzenegger and Shusett were the only ones who didn't get sick. Shusett had fallen ill on the set of Predator, so he always went around with a private chef. Schwarzenegger, on the other hand, was getting takeout. But fate has other plans for the star. Number 12. Schwarzenegger didn't escape injury either. Arnold Schwarzenegger performed many demanding scenes that put strain on his body. During the subway chase scene, where he smashes through a glass window, it was supposed to be breakaway glass. The prop was supposed to shatter, but it didn't. So Schwarzenegger actually broke the window with his hands. He had to get stitches in his wrist. For the rest of the filming, his bandaged wrist was hidden under his jacket. It looks like a bad hand instead of food poisoning. But he wasn't the only actor who got hurt. Michael Ironside just might be worse. Number 13. Michael Ironside suffered a serious injury. Michael Ironside injured himself and cracked a rib. That's it. Remember the elevator fight scene with Schwarzenegger? That's when it happened. On top of the food poisoning and air pollution, Ironside didn't take a break though. He borrowed NFL quarterback Jim Plunkett's rib protector and kept it pushing. Scenes like this were intense enough to concern film rating boards. Number 14. The movie had to tone down the violence for an R rating. The film originally contained even more graphic violence. The MPAA initially gave it an X rating. The goal was to secure an R rating, so the team had to make some cuts. Did you know there used to be a scene of a dissecting arm? Well, now you know. Now, even with intense action, the film still included clever character surprises. Number 15. One actor played two characters at once. George and Kuato were one of the most iconic duos of 90s sci-fi, and it was all Marshall Bell. Marshall Bell played George while also providing the voice for Kuato. Playing two connected characters added an extra layer of creativity to the performance. It also helped strengthen the strange dynamic between the characters. Of course, not every creative decision satisfied everyone involved. Number 16. Schwarzenegger hated the trailer. The first trailer released by TriStar Pictures barely showed any action or special effects, which is a strange choice for a movie built on spectacle. Audiences were not impressed, and neither was Arnold Schwarzenegger. He reportedly felt the trailer made the movie look cheap and did not capture what made the film exciting. Schwarzenegger pushed for a new trailer to be created by a different marketing team, and this time the preview finally showed the scale, action, and wild energy that made Total Recall worth watching. One executive hated something else. Number 17, the writer hated the ending. Screenwriter Dan O'Bannon was never a fan of how Total Recall ended. He felt the final scene where Mars suddenly gains a breathable atmosphere was too convenient and did not match the deeper themes of Philip K. Dick's original story. We can remember it for you wholesale. His preferred ending leaned more into the idea that Quaid's experience might have been happening entirely in his mind, possibly leaving him trapped in a mental loop rather than giving him a clear victory. Interestingly, earlier versions of the script went in a slightly different direction. Number 18, the original ending was even more definitive. Instead of a clear victory on Mars, the ending suggested that Quaid might not even be the original person at all. One idea revealed that the alien machine responded to his handprint because he was actually a constructed identity, essentially a manufactured personality given total recall of multiple lives. Another version leaned into the possibility that Quaid never left Recall at all, and that the entire adventure was just a memory implant going wrong. There's another fun detail you might have missed. Number 19, the Fat Lady passport used the actress's real name. During the Mars customs scene, Quaid disguises himself as the famous Fat Lady using a high-tech mask. The moment becomes instantly memorable when the disguise glitches and he delivers the iconic line, 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Here's a fun detail. The passport shown in the scene actually uses the real name of the actress playing the character, Priscilla Allen. So even though the credits simply list the character as Fat Lady, the film quietly sneaks in the actress's real identity as an inside joke for attentive viewers. Number 20, the movie was a massive success. All that effort was worth it. Total Recall earned over $261 million worldwide, making it one of the biggest hits of 1990, and it even took home a Special Achievement Academy Award Oscar for its groundbreaking visual effects. It still gets reruns after almost 30 years, and a new version of Total Recall was released in 2012 starring Colin Farrell. The reboot featured updated visual effects and a slightly different tone. While opinions remain mixed, the remake proves how powerful the original concept still is. And from its strange origins to its massive success, the Total Recall movie proves that sometimes the most difficult production creates the most iconic results. If you enjoyed this deep dive into movie trivia, you will definitely want to check out our video on The Empire Strikes Back, where we explore why many fans consider it the greatest Star Wars movie ever made. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments what classic you want to see next. Now, get your ass to Mars.
Get your ass to Mars.
See you in the next one.